West Med event within the Conferenza GNL today, Friday, October 8th. We apologize for the delay, which is given to the late conclusion of the previous conference. And I would like to thank you all for joining us on this conference. I pass immediately the floor to Mr. Sergio Garriba, President of the Scientific Committee of Conferenza GNL, who is hosting us today. Thank you, Sergio, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. It is a pleasure to be here and to have the first speech, say, within a conference with a challenging subject, which are the relations between the southern and northern bank of the Mediterranean, with a view, to the use of clean fuels for maritime transport, notably LNG. I would say a few words. I may recall, what is apparent to all of you. The structure of the Mediterranean. We have, in general, a highly polluted sea, a sea which is divided into areas and regions where, the pollution can be even worse, such as the Black Sea and the Adriatic Ionian Sea. We have also, diverse countries along, the south and the northern bank. Some of the countries have strong bilateral relations. Other countries, participate with, less enthusiasm, to the international activities. And another point which I think it is of importance is the traffic. We have maritime traffic through the Mediterranean, which has almost no equal in other parts, of our oceans and the seas. We have the traffic can increase in the future. You can see the Mediterranean as the tail of the Silk Road. You can see traffic which are transits. You can see commercial bulk carriers and passenger traffic and the regular traffic, which is linking, a few harbors through the Mediterranean. This is one point. The second point, I think, is our goals and long-term objectives. The goals and terms of objectives are defined by the IMO in general, and the Mediterranean Sea might become, in the near future, an environmentally clean, emission clean area. We already have, such a deadline for the Adriatic Ionian Sea, which is next year, environmentally emission clean area. On the other hand, the countries from the northern bank, most of all, are within the European Union, and they're following, the standards and the goals which are suggested and proposed by the European Union or recommended by the European Union. Now, there is a difference between, the long-term goals which are proposed by the IMO and the long-term goals which are proposed by the European Union. So I assume there will be the need for some harmonization in this respect. Otherwise, countries from the southern bank may feel constrained to adopt, standards, emission limits, which are defined by the European Union. And this cannot be, a straightforward action. So dialogue is needed with respect, to what we might, desire as a long-term emission perspective for the Mediterranean Sea. The other and final point refers to the cooperations. Who's doing what? There is a limited cooperation today, on the use of clean fuels across the Mediterranean. And I was trying to imagine which is, say, the organization, either international or multilateral, who can do, some unifying activity. Of course, WestMed, in my view, has an important role. We are confronted by a silence from other international multilateral organizations. WestMed, which is raising the problem and which is allowing us to discuss the problem today, as an important role. Another role can be attached to the Euro-Mediterranean platform for natural gas. In this Euro-Mediterranean platform for natural gas, most of the discussion is on natural gas. Should I remember, I can see a very limited consideration given to LNG and clean fuels, say gaseous clean fuels for use in the transport through and within the Mediterranean. Another organization or other organizations that can be involved are MEDREG, and I also assume the Organization for Mediterranean Energy, DOME. DOME is a grouping of, companies, enterprises, which are mostly dealing with, the gas, electricity, natural gas, electricity, supply, and distribution. A subject that they may wish to consider is to, allow companies which are dealing with clean fuels to enter the organization and discuss and try to find, a common ground in order, to promote and provide, LNG use for maritime transport through the Mediterranean with a nice perspective. On my side, I was discussing with colleagues the issue within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy. We have a periodical conference on Euro-Mediterranean, subjects and issues. And I assume in the future we might, consider LNG use for, maritime transport and the long-term, fuels for maritime transport as an issue where, countries from the southern bank and the northern bank may wish to cooperate. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Garriba, and thank you for the comprehensive introduction. I would like to pass the floor immediately to Manuel Plegoselo Alonso from DG Mare in representation of the European Commission. And DG Mare, as you all know, is the directorate which has launched the WestMed initiative. So please, Manuel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonardo, and thanks to the organizers for inviting DG Mare, the European Commission, to this conference on LNG. First of all, talking about sustainable transports, talking about alternative clean fuels and green shipping, we have to refer that it has been identified as the first topic for the technical groups set up in the WestMed initiative. And sustainable transport, which is the topic of this conference indeed, came upon the three goals of this Blue Economy initiative called WestMed initiative, because it's dealing with a safer maritime space, it's dealing with maritime safety, it's also related to a smart and resilient blue economy, clearly the sustainable consumption and production and transport indeed, and also it's linked with the better governance of the sea, because from transport, we can find implication on maritime spatial planning, marine knowledge, marine habitat conservation. So it's clearly embedded in the goals of the WestMed initiative. But the political framework issue published by the European Commission comes from this 2021 Sustainable Blue Economy Communication. We have published a new communication with a new approach for that we called previously blue growth, and now we prefer to call sustainable blue economy, totally aligned with the European Green Deal. The Commissioner said that it's put the blue in the green, put the blue in the European Green Deal, because without the blue, without the maritime sectors, we can now recover properly after COVID, and we can now fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals of the Agenda 2030. So sustainable transport, it's totally aligned, and the topic of this use of alternative fuels of the decarbonization. Decarbonization is one of the main pillars of this European Green Deal, and the maritime transport, the transition to zero emissions vessels are clearly linked with this objective. Maritime transport on the one side, but also the role of ports, more than just logistic hubs. We think that ports could be centers for sustainable development, for energy efficiency, for clusters, for communication, for submarine cable. So this a clear focus on the how to put the blue in the European Green Deal through the decarbonization, through the sustainable maritime transport. And it's totally aligned with the Fit for 55 package for a green transition, launched recently by the European Commission as a revision of initiatives, updating of policies relating to this green transition. One of them is the FuelEU Maritime for a greener maritime space, but also the deployment of the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive. But until now, I'm talking about the political framework within the European perspective, within the European territory. But what about the third countries? What about the neighbor countries? And this Sustainable Blue Economy communication, as I said, issued last May 2021, also talks specifically about the promotion and the expansion of this sustainable approach to third countries, and specifically to neighbors countries, because we are sharing space, we are sharing resources. And this is also aligned with another communication issued this year as well, last February, called Joint Communication or Partnership on a Renewed Partnership with the Southern Neighborhood. And this communication is clearly connecting maritime transport and sustainable maritime transport as part of the sustainable economy, as part of the green transition, green and digital, and making reference as well to support the private sector. So I want to finish just recalling also different initiatives which are currently ongoing in negotiation, in elaboration, as the new Regional Transport Action Plan for the Mediterranean for the new period, 21-27. Also the revision of the Trans-European Transport Network. We are trying to include references and involvement of third countries, of neighboring countries, and also, as you know, the ongoing negotiations to declare the Mediterranean as a whole as a sulfur oxide emission control area, pursuing the MARPOL, the International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Shipping, and the Annex 6. I want to finish making reference of the Youth Union for the Mediterranean framework, because we are totally aligned with the Blue Economy Ministerial Declaration issued last February, because it said as regards sustainable, climate neutral, zero pollution maritime transport and ports. And also very recently this week, that has been approved a new climate action and environment ministerial declaration, calling also to mainstream the environment and climate actions in different policies, indeed in the transport policy. So happy to know about the achievements of this meeting, gathering institutions and companies, and really happy to know about the results and conclusions and takeaways. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you very much. We, of course, are all very much careful of all these indications. As you know, we are working on these topics since more than 1 year, and particularly with our technical group. And I pass immediately the floor to Ambassador Sergio Piazzi, Secretary General of the Parliamentary Assembly. The floor is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. Many thanks to Dr. Gavagnini and Dr. Carriba for the invitation. And for the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, it's very important for us, the topic of the conference you are organizing today, with this very specific focus, which is indeed extremely important for the present and the immediate future of our region. Let me say very briefly, PAM is a political organization. It's not a technical organization. We are an international organization where the members are the national parliament of the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf countries, 34 member states, going from Mauritania to Jerusalem, and then going back to Portugal. We have also some non-typical Euromed countries, such as Qatar, the Emirates, Romania, and some relevant observers, such as the Russian Federation and the United States of America. We have very close cooperation with the United Nations and with the European institutions, both in terms of Parliament and Council and the Commission itself. We work very close with them, and we have also special relation with the international financial institution. We work very close with the European Central Bank, European Investment Bank, the EBRD, and we have been one of the close partners for the Deauville Partnership. Once, if our colleagues from the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs remember, the Palermo initiative really didn't work at that time. What do we do in the energy sector? I think this is extremely important. I would like to stress that the role that our assembly can play is through its member parliament for the regional integration of the gas sector. And in particular, not every country in our region has low-cost renewable energy sources or natural gas sources, but every region does. Therefore, regional integration in renewable energy and access to complementary natural gas is a key step in the power sector reform that would substantially reduce costs through economies of scale and increased share of power offtake in total power generation. For example, regional power pools. This requires, of course, the political will by governments in the region to develop energy systems that are regionally connected, and PAM can indeed influence this process. In this respect, yesterday, the present president of PAM and Italy is holding the presidency of PAM in this moment with Honorable Gennaro Migliore at the Energy Summit, which was held in Dubai as part of the Expo discussion on energy, announced the PAM proposal to create the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf Renewable Energy Community. And you will hear later from our president in his statement. In details, if you wish, I would like to draw your attention on our common obligation to look at the gas market, not only from a strict business perspective, but also how gas actor can contribute to the SDGs of the United Nations by understanding and prioritizing them. I would like to emphasize that Parliament in the region are very sensitive on how oil and gas company impact the environment, as well as to the price, as you, the impact on energy, but also to the cost for the families in our region. And I have seen, especially when we speak about the topic of today, of very liquefied gas, how important are the partnership with our members from the Gulf. And I have seen the importance, the percentage, and indeed how Mediterranean is the most congested highway for energy in the world. And this is something that we have to tackle together. As a PAM, we had a number already of meetings dedicated on the subject, and you can count on us on the future for what concerns cooperation in the energy factor. Also, it's important to see, if we look at the environment and the use of renewable sources, the issue of the subsidies. There was a very interesting report by the United Nations a couple of days ago about the level of subsidies still paid by Euro-Mediterranean countries for fossil fuels, which indeed this render our work much more difficult. And allow me to conclude by reiterating how the gas actors, and therefore all the stakeholders present at the meeting today, including those involved in the transport, can play an important contribution to the decarbonization process. A new and efficient natural gas plant emits up to 60% less CO2 than a new coal plant. And we see now how many new coal plants are being built, which is a contradiction with all the effort and commitments we have taken, and let's see how it will go in Glasgow in a few weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I immediately pass the floor to Daniele Bosio as National Coordinator for Italy of the West Med Initiative and Co-President of the West Med Initiative for the years 2020-2021. Thank you, Mr. Bosio. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to my fellow speakers and to the audience. Yes, I'm the coordinator for maritime affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, and I represent the co-presidency of the West Med Initiative for the 2 years period of 2020-2021. We shared it with Morocco last year in 2020, and we are now sharing it with Libya for 2021. The presidency will be closed by stakeholders conference, which will be held in Rome on November 9, 2021, next November. I take this very interesting and important opportunity to speak about what the West Med is doing for the green shipping, what we call the green shipping, the promotion of energy efficiency in port operations and in shipping through the use of clean fuels and innovative technologies, the optimization of port infrastructures, the contribution to the development of the trans-European and trans-Mediterranean maritime networks, with particular regard to the motorways of the sea and port terminals, are possibly the most important priority of the work of the West Med Initiative, as was spelled out in the ministerial declaration that was approved in 2018 in Algiers. Other actions accompany also this target, this goal, and they aim in particular to support the medium and small enterprises, in particular through the development of a national maritime cluster, especially on the southern shore, and to promote an effective network of maritime cluster around the region. I put these two items in parallel because green shipping goes very much hand in hand with innovation and technological progress. And clusters are indeed one of those accelerators, and one of the accelerators of this technological progress. Another extremely important element of the West Med Initiative is that such priorities benefit from what the crucial element, which is to develop the North-South cooperation in the Western Mediterranean. the sub-basin, let's not forget it, within the whole Mediterranean region is a homogeneous political and geographical entity without conflicts and with different but complementary degrees of economic and social development. This makes the Western Mediterranean a reality that has the potential for joint and sustainable development of a sector, that of the maritime economy, which represent the most visible link between the two shores of the Mediterranean. The first of these priorities, I was saying, is represented by the development of sustainable maritime transport, green shipping, with particular attention to the development of liquefied natural gas for ship propulsion, the creation of LNG distribution network in the Mediterranean, and the electrification of ports, the so-called cold ironing. This is also in view, actually, of the creation of a emission control area for sulfur oxide in the Mediterranean Sea as a whole, which will be, and we have been mentioning it already, will be negotiated within the framework of the Barcelona Convention and finally adopted within the International Maritime Organization. These priorities of the both sponsoring the green shipping within WestMed and also the creation of this emission control area in the Mediterranean have been one of the most important objectives of Italy's environmental policies in the Mediterranean. The ECAMED, the emission control area in the Mediterranean, was actually approved. The roadmap was approved at the COP21 in Naples. And thanks to the work of the presidency, of the Italian presidency, the WestMed initiative created the first technical group on of the initiative, the technical group on green shipping, which is currently working in three directions: the elaboration of a feasibility study, boosting green shipping and maximizing investment in sustainable energy, and two pilot action: one on the creation of a network of WestMed maritime ports as energy communities, and two, to boost adaptation of WestMed commercial vessel, the adaptation of fleet, which are two sides of the same coin. All these issues will be actually a very powerful accelerator for structural change in shipping, I believe. At the industrial level, the creation of the emission control area implies the need to intervene on the one hand on port infrastructure and on the creation to adapt, and on the need to adapt or modify the propulsion or emission systems of ships. If this could entail for the shipping sector in the medium and long term, it could have potential very positive effect on technological development of the European and Italian also shipbuilding industry. And of course, on the acceleration of the development of other energy sources for propulsion energy fuels, in particular LNG. It will also be necessary to provide for the preparation of European cooperation instrument for infrastructure development, especially to stimulate the consistency to the proposals for the countries of the Southern Shore. The Western Mediterranean, as we all know, plays a crucial role in with respect to short and long sea shipping routes, because it connects Africa and European countries through some of the most important ports of the European Union and the Euro-Mediterranean area. But it also is a way through which a large part of the maritime traffic pass through from Eastern Asia to the Atlantic. So it's a very important traffic route which we should be taking care of. promoting the development of green shipping in the Western Mediterranean also has the potential to transform the port in circular hubs for sustainable energy production and consumption. In this regard, the port of the Western Mediterranean can play a leading role in guiding the transformation of green ports in active energy communities, where the consumption and production of clean energy becomes, in perspective, the engine of local economic activities. Obviously, this implies a thorough reflection on the different needs and capabilities existing on both shores, which requires an intense effort in terms of infrastructural renewal and an urgent need for a very sound cost-benefit analysis on changes. And I believe that the of LNG is also relevant as a first step for the transition toward the goal of a decarbonized sector and as an entry point for other alternative and zero impact fuels, starting, for example, from biomethane and ending with hydrogen. In a sense, the development of LNG-based transport and shipping represent the forerunner in terms of technologies and port logistics for the arrival of green hydrogen, possibly as an energy source and as a fuel for transport, or also for the next generation, innovative power generation, including, I imagine, lithium batteries, fuel cell powered by hydrogen. I conclude, key aspects of this path will be a strong commitment to the harmonization and standardization of technologies and regulations, as well as the sharing of knowledge, best practices, and capacities across the region. Sharing this approach with the countries of the Southern Shore needs to be accompanied by an open dialogue where opinion and perspective are discussed and taken into account. If this vision is successful, it will make the Western Mediterranean a leading hub region for the entire Mediterranean basin in terms of green transport sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniele Bosio, for your intervention. And I would like also to pass the floor to the other co-president of the West Med Initiative in this year 2021, in particular, Mr. Ali Shagrune, who is a national coordinator for Libya for the West Med Initiative, and as I said, co-president of the initiative for this year. Please, Mr. Shagrune, the floor is yours. Mr. Shagrune, you have to activate the microphone, please.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, I would like you to force by the organizers conference and all that contributed and the success this conference. And I special greeting for Mr. Daniel Bosio and Mr. Leonardo Manzari, because these persons, they support us and help us for in co-presidency Libyan Italian in steering committee. So Libya will be present with you and work with you. Now stop the war that lasted more than 10 years ended. And now Libya go to stability. So I will to thank you, the participant members and international organization and all the guests wishing the success conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shagrune, for your intervention. I don't know whether we also have Mr. Mohamed Al Sakran, connected as a co-president of the working group of the UFM, Union for the Mediterranean for the Blue Economy. I don't see him right now, so I would like to pass the floor to Matteo Bocci from the central team of the West Med Initiative. Thank you, Matteo, for being with us and for supporting us also today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Leonardo, and thanks to all the distinguished speakers that introduced this topic, very important topic, and it's clear that the political element as well as the, let's say, SDG element and the technical elements are all there. We discuss a bit more now on the technicalities of all this, but first I would like to briefly explain what the West Med Initiative is and what we do as assistance mechanism very briefly. So I try to share my screen. Hopefully that was okay. So as Manuel was saying, we're trying to greening the blue right here. Right? So I try to reflect that a bit in my slides. And we took a lot of insights on what we already discussed inside our technical group. By the way, I think most of the members of our technical group has been invited today, so they feel free to contribute and exchange. What we want to do here is also giving a bit more of detail and the state of play of what we're doing with our technical subgroups where we work on concrete project idea. But first, very briefly, okay, how we green the blue in the Western Mediterranean. So the West Med Strategic Initiative, it's a EU-supported initiative. It's endorsed by regional partners like UFM, etc. And really the aim is to contribute to development the sustainable blue economy in the Western Mediterranean region. We as a systems mechanism support the initiative. We have a network of very valuable national hub, we call them, but they're persons, professionals like Leonardo today here. And we cover a similar discussion in all the countries across the Western Mediterranean, and as you just seen from our co-president, we are also increasingly engaging in Libya as well. We don't have national hub there for obvious reason, but we have a very strong commitment and engagement by the co-presidency. So very briefly, because we don't want to get there, but we look at safer and secure maritime space. We look at the green part, so smart and resilient blue economy, so how we support economic development by preserving ecosystem and coastal areas. And then we look at the better governance of the sea. How do we do that as a systems mechanism? I will not enter in details, but we basically act as brokers, as actually Leonardo is doing today. So we bring together different stakeholders, we bring together different level of governance, and we bring together funding opportunities. So we look a lot on project development, we look a lot at partnership creation and strengthening across the region, and also beyond across the Mediterranean. We spot and promote funding opportunity. We try to cooperate with other regional and sub-regional initiatives and funding mechanism. And we really try to push the overall awareness and success of a sustainable blue economy in the region. Then, as part of this, we have, since the initial terms of reference really for the assistance mechanism, the opportunity to use technical groups. We had to understand a bit better what they were, and we exactly for what Mr. Bosio said, we thought that it was important to start with green shipping. We know that's ambitious. We know that's also there's a lot of political elements in that, because the whole discussion of clean fuel and clean vessels has certainly also a political dimension in the region. But nevertheless, we wanted to collaborate with all key actors and the key local experts and ministries across the subsea basin and in the Mediterranean. So the technical group idea is really to bring together experts. In this case, they were members of the ministry, right, designated by the political parties in the steering group of the West Med initiative. They have a specific outcome and target, which is identifying key valuable projects that are kind of extra projects that can really build upon what goes on and fulfill certain gaps. And they are time bound. So typically, they 1 year of existence. The discussion was so successful and helpful and important that has been actually promoted a second year of this work, where we really want to push forward a concrete project. And again, the idea is to look at project cooperation, but obviously through that also creating a broader awareness and impact. We went through several meetings. I will skip that, but basically, main achievement was an immediate agreement on a frame of actions, sort of like a common vision, a common declaration by the stakeholders. And then we identified 3 project project concept. That is what we are presenting here today. In terms, very briefly again, on the framework of action, well, basically there was a recognition by all members of our technical group that the West Mediterranean play a strategic role in the Med, long and short haul. I mean, obviously allows for synergies as is an entry point in the transition between the Atlantic, the East Med, and Asia. So it's quite strategic for the whole Mediterranean, and it cannot be considered in the absence of the whole Mediterranean. But also that fostering green shipping, as I think was mentioned by Mr. Piazzi, is really a boost for broader innovation. So it's not just a technical thing, it's an accelerator for business ecosystem around the potential of innovation on the water, but also inland, and particularly in ports. And then there was a reflection on the relevance of transforming and adapting the vessels for these. We reflected the ambitious goal of decarbonization, the fact that green shipping is part of a complex value chain. I'm being technical here, but we will understand. And there are different actors, different players, all with different needs, capability, and skills that need to be addressed. Training is essential. Observing and monitoring the developments is fundamental, also for vessels. Really understanding the state of advancement of all the technologies at disposal. There's a clear element of harmonization and standardization that is a kind of a precondition for the uptake of green shipping performance and practice, and also there's a fragmentation of financing stream, particularly for the Western Med, but in general for shipping, because of this complexity of the whole sector. But then, without much ado, this was just preamble, because really what we want to present, and I will not discuss that. I will ask Leo then to introduce the different key speakers of these subgroups, and please feel free, members of the technical group, to comment or ask for the floor for additional insights. But we're basically in this, after a few months, we identified this concept, 3 important project area for development. We defined concept notes for that. And for this reason, that was an extension of 1 extra year, where we're now working very concretely with concrete actors and project partners across the West Med and beyond on these 3 project activities, basically project idea. One, we started as a study, I think is now developed really in a kind of a monitoring tool and monitoring approach, which is fundamental. And this is the most advanced area in the project development we had so far. Really understanding, as I said before, what is the stage of innovation, what are the key technologies emerging, how those technologies are distributed across ports and regions in the Med, and really, which are the best of breed that we can invest. So this is one area very important. We will start with this project. The other 2 are more concrete kind of pilots. So more ambitious, a bit more complex, if I might say, because imply really bringing on board viable models. So we're developing those. The pilot action one, it's very interesting because it really looks at the supply of energy as a key element for green shipping. So in this context, and I think was an element touched upon some of the previous speakers, if we manage to boost the ability of ports to transform into renewable energy hubs, ecosystem of business researchers, local authorities that really are able to generate and provide renewable sources, small scale, maybe for small scale vessels, but also increasingly for longer hull vessels, then this becoming a key element for accelerating the whole green shipping sector. It's very complicated. There are technical difficulties, but the idea here is to start piloting this discussion. It might even be a good element to connection to some of very important projects happening, for example, in the Atlantic, where ports have been networking together to try to act as accelerators for their ecosystem. They are interested in energy, renewable energy, but I think the discussion in the Med in this respect, also to our modest contribution, but important contribution, seems to be a bit more advanced. So we try to here to test the use of the concept of energy community, which is currently mainly inland and rural, how ports can become energy communities where energy is real, renewable energy is really a core. The last but not least, which is currently under fine-tuning, but is looking at the actual vessels and carriers. So how we can promote adaptation of commercial vessels. This action builds a lot on the other two, because certainly one issue is a very fragmented and jeopardized Mediterranean framework for different choices and stage of renewable energy sources available in different ports. It's very difficult to do long-term strategies for commercial vessels because of the uncertainty of which technology will catch up. It's also very expensive and complicated to be able to adapt to every type of sources of energy. So this is an interesting and important element. And last but not least, there needs to be a more clear, homogeneous availability of investment sources, private investment, banking investment for the carriers to be able to to make more longer term strategies. But that was introduction. I will leave it to the actual project partners to describe these three projects. So I will leave it back to Leo to introduce the presenters, and thanks a lot very much.
Okay, thank you, Matteo. I would pass immediately the floor to Abdel Nikatoufon of University of Genoa, who is leading the partnership of the feasibility studies, and who have in the University of Genoa with their partners has already submitted the first proposal under Horizon during the month of September. So Abdel, the floor is yours to show us a bit some resume of your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Leonardo, for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to speak today. Hi, everyone. Thank you. This is the agenda. We are going to speak today about the project background and the methodology and the expected outcome of the project, and I am going to present the work package, the program. Here in this slide, you can see the problem driver of our project. So we all know the high energy need and the lack of alternative fuel in the maritime transport. So this were the problem driver of the project, and the strategic research agenda is to see the use of alternative fuel and to see the scenario setting, the fuel on board, and the power conversion that exists in the market. In the partnership, we were 7. There were 2 partners from Italy, 1 for Portugal, 1 for Belgium, and 1 from Morocco, and Tunisia, and Algeria. The aim of the project of the partnership was to establish a regional observatory on innovative and sustainable technologies for green shipping and green ports was to assess the state of the art and the future potential in research and innovation for technological solution aimed to fostering sustainable energy for Mediterranean green shipping and to provide managerial tools for supporting the decision-making process related to investment in new technology from both private and public stakeholders, and as well as onboarding program opportunity selected by policymakers involved in the shipping and the port domain. And the main outcome of the project is an observatory for green technologies in shipping and port. So this is the structure of observatory. So we are going to see the technological assessment, to see the technological description, the state of art, and the technological issues. And then we have the methodological issues, that's the research design. And then we have the data gathering, the market data, the supply chain data, and so on. And the main outcome is to settle KPIs for making more efficient public support to energy transition in the transport domain, and to develop of an ad hoc dashboard system for supporting public and private stakeholders and policymakers involved in the shipping and port industry. And then, before speaking about the methodology, we participate to this project. This was a coordination and support action identifying waterborne sustainable fuel deployment scenarios. The project was presented on 14 September 2021, and the budget of the project was 500,000 euros. And to achieve the outcome of the project, this was an observatory of green shipping. We are going to use the methodology that we can see on the right-hand side. Is the literature review, the literature to do interviews, focus group, and debate public, and to be also a sensitive analysis and to use the Delphi method. And the objective is to see the state of art of the technology on green shipping and alternative fuel, the state of the play, to do scenario analysis, and to use also management tools. And some management tools are CAPEX analysis, OPEX analysis, and supply chain analysis, and also preliminary eco and financial evaluation of projects related to green technology and so on. And the expected outcome of the project was to increase and early deployment of climate neutral fuels and significant electrification of shipping, to increase overall energy efficiency and drastically lower fuel consumption of vessel. Also to build a strong technological and operational momentum toward achieving climate neutrality and the elimination of all harmful pollution to air and water. So about the working package, we had 5 working packages. The first one was about the identification and deployment of clean fuel and the related technology in regions and Mediterranean, in European regions and Mediterranean African regions. And the second one was to see the green technology, to analyze the green technology and green fuel scenarios. And the third working package was the observatory of green shipping and strategy tool for port and public bodies. And the next one was the dissemination, the communication, and the exploitation. And the last one was the project management. For the future, we identified some projects with the help of Leonardo. Thank you very much, Leonardo. We see this project that are all horizon project and a single stage project, and the opening date of is 2 December 2021, and the deadline is 26 April 2022. So we are looking this project for the future. These are very interesting project, and we hope to win one of this project and work on this topic that is very important for our study of our university on our research. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Abdel. I don't know if Belagine Boumedienne from Algeria wants also to add something, since the Algerian university also had a strong role in drafting this project. Otherwise, we go ahead and we start then with the pilot one regarding the energy communities. The partnership will be led by University of Pisa, and I pass the floor to Dr. Gianluca Pasini and then to Professor Gabriella De Maio. Please, Pasini, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonardo, and good morning to everyone. I am Gianluca Pasini, and I'm an engineer, a fellow researcher of Pisa University from Energy Engineering Department. I'm going to briefly introduce the subtask 2, pilot 1, regarding maritime ports as energy communities. And I have to say that the working group regarding this pilot 1 at the moment is composed by partners from Italy, Spain, Tunisia, Morocco, and France, but it is absolutely open to other contributions. The main topic, as said before, is energy communities, and from a legal perspective, Professor Gabriella De Maio will explain better than me what is or what could be an energy communities. But in few words, an energy community in a maritime port is an aggregation of all port operators. This entity could, an example, sell and resell energy to customers, and energy is intended as electricity, natural gas, LNG, but also heat and other fuels, such as liquid fossil fuels, and also new renewable alternative fuels like synthetic methane, biomethane, hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, and so on. One of the most interesting opportunities is that the energy is used and shared inside the community. This includes consumption of energy, example, individual and collective self-consumption of electricity, but also includes the local sharing of energy, which is produced with the generation installation within the community itself. The generation assets, mostly solar, photovoltaic, and wind, with maybe lithium batteries, but also other renewable sources, are collectively used and maybe also owned by the community. If the energy is not entirely self-consumed, it could be sold to a supplier outside the energy communities through the main electricity grid. Any project that arises from this pilot 1 will have to start from a preliminary energy survey investigating whole energy consumption in ports, from ship traffic, type of ships, movement of goods and containers, cranes, other dock mobility, buildings, combined heat and power, and so on, until to the presence of or possibility of installation of new electricity generation assets, possibly from renewable sources. There are two main goals of this pilot one. The first is obviously the reduction of costs and environmental impacts to the goal of sustainability of energy use in ports. And the second the second goal, equally important, is the investigation of possible types of aggregation for energy communities in respect of such different local regulation or in absence of regulation in the Mediterranean area. Regarding this last point, now I give the floor to Professoressa Gabriela De Maio, and I want to thank you everyone for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriele. I pass the floor to Professoressa Gabriela De Maio, who is professor in Law of Energy at University of Naples Federico II, Department of Law. Please, Professoressa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the floor. Good morning, everyone. And special thanks to Professor Romano Giglioli, Diego Gavagnin, and Leonardo Manzari for the invitation to this important conference on the route for the Mediterranean. I apologize because it was not possible for me to reach you in presence for academic agenda in Naples. And now I take the floor in this debate as a coordinator of Italian Forum of Energy Communities promoted by Energy Center of Polytechnic of Turin and Italian National Committee of the World Energy Council. The project of IFEC is to investigate the contribution that energy communities can make to the achievement of energy and environmental objectives. In this context, discussing renewable energy communities is an opportunity to understand how this new model can innovate the energy market. In fact, in the current phase of energy transition led by the European Union, new concepts and legal entities come into play. Decentralized renewable energies, self-consumption, prosumers, and energy communities. This states that the view of the European legislator has changed not only in the lexicon, but also in the identification of the protagonist of future energy scenarios. The EU Directive 2018/2001 has introduced the shared energy model of the renewable energy community. This model for a European legislator is a legal entity whose main objective is to provide environmental, economic, or social benefits at the community level to its shareholders or members, or to the local areas in which it operates. On this point, we can ask various questions. How can energy communities relate to the ports? Is it possible to imagine a long-term carbon-neutral port system? I think the answers are affirmative. In these terms, the port energy communities can be in line with the EU legislator, according to which the transition to decentralized energy production can improve the development and cohesion of communities. In Italy, actually, we have an experimental legislation, but the transposition of the directive in our law system is almost at the end. The port energy communities could realize environmental benefits because they can produce energy from renewable sources. In Italy, the port energy communities can realize economic benefits because the renewable sources plants inserted in the energy communities are remunerated with an incentive rate defined by the Italian Ministry of Economic Development. About social benefits, the port energy communities could also offer various services and can create a positive inducement for employment development at the local level. In fact, to manage energy communities, new jobs are needed, with positive effects in the post-COVID phase. Energy communities also represent the catalyst of local supply chains of energy services. Their creation and management imply the integration of small companies devoted to design, installation, and maintenance. Increasing the consumption of electricity, also using local energy generation from renewable sources, could also improve the performance of the ports. I hope these brief points will be useful for this morning's debate, and I'm thankful for your attention.
Thank you, Professor De Maio. It was very much interesting because one of the main reasons why this pilot project gathers so much attention also from main Mediterranean ports is exactly because the lack of uniformity in the legislative framework about energy communities, and also because of the inclusive feature of this concept, giving to all countries the possibility to adapt and to calibrate the energy community according to the proper conditions to produce electricity on site. I would like now to pass the floor for what is relevant to the pilot 2, which is regarding the adaptation and the renewal of fleets to the Confitarma association, which is the association of ship owners of Italy, and who should be leading the pilot 2 for this next project. I would like to pass the floor for this reason to Fabio Faraone and Laurence Martin. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning to all. I will be very short, but the concept is very simple. The ship owners are looking with a great interest to this transition period. Naturally, is a very important moment, because we look to new fuels, but the problem is the availability of these fuels. Our members are just looking to the LNG since years. The example is the group Costa, but we are looking to also to other environmental friendly solutions. One of our members is, as installed the battery systems on his ferries to stop any emission during the stop into the port. Naturally, we look to the development of the ICA area in the Mediterranean. We are proactive, and we are in favor, but according a roadmap. Now we look also to the new fuel, but we look also to the pragmatic plan, because someone spoken about the limits of IMO and European Union, but to achieve this targets. Achieving these targets, we need a adequate technology that will not be available in a very short time. Anyway, for sure, the LNG is the key for the transition period, for sure. This because mainly we reduce the SOx, NOx, and PM emissions, and we also reduce with LNG the CO2 around the 20%. The matter is that this fuel must be available. So on the north of Italy, we have a good development. Yesterday, there was a conference about this matter, but we are afraid regarding the lack of infrastructural points in all the Mediterranean and also worldwide. This, for concluding, Confitarma is proactive for these all these matters, and we are available for every support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabio. I don't know if Laurence wants to add something on this.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Chair. Naturally, this is my technical point of view. That is also a political point of view, but naturally, I'm happy if Laurence would like to add something. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Laurence, please, the floor is yours. If you have something to add.
I don't know if maybe she's busy, but anyway, we have this position.
To Roberto Mencarelli of the Italian Ministry of Infrastructure and Sustainable Mobility for his presentation about the CEF funds and the calls, which is an opportunity for the operators right now. And before my short slides about some Horizon calls. Please, Roberto, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I'm Roberto Mencarelli. I work at RAM, which is an in-house company of the Italian Ministry of Sustainable Infrastructures and Mobility. And I'm here in the capacity of technical assistance to the head of TEN-T unit, which is Engineer Federica Polce. I will now briefly give you a few elements concerning the new call for proposals for the CEF transport, which was published the last 17th September. The general call has a financial budget of about 7 billion euros, which, out of which 3.7 are dedicated to all the member states, whereas around 3 billion are exclusive to the cohesion countries. And we have another 330 million which are dedicated to projects which are aimed to the military mobility. The general call is divided in different topics. The one we would like to analyze today is the alternative fuels facility. So we can maybe take a look at the text of the tender of the call for proposals together to see what is actually financed in this framework. So we have electricity recharging infrastructure supported in the form of unit contributions. I will explain later what unit contributions mean and co-financing as well. So all public accessible recharging stations along the TEN-T network. And they must be located within certain roadmaps which are defined clearly within the regulations. We have also publicly accessible recharging stations in safe and secure parkings, always along the TEN-T network, and publicly accessible recharging stations in urban areas as well. Then we have, the alternative fuels infrastructure facility for zero emissions. So we have electricity charging infrastructure in the form of fixed co-financing rate. We will have recharging stations supplying public transport in TEN-T urban nodes. There's a list of urban nodes in the Annex 2.2 of the TEN-T regulation. We have recharging stations supplying inland waterways as well. Recharging infrastructure for port vehicles and equipment, and electrification of airport ground operations as well. We have hydrogen refueling infrastructure supported in the form of a fixed co-financing rate. We would have public accessible hydrogen refueling stations, HRS, we'll call it from now on, for light duty vehicles or long haul heavy duty vehicles. In this case, they would be supplying liquid gaseous hydrogen at pressure of 700 bar or 350 bar and 700 bar. They're supplying limited to 350 bar only in cases of locations which serve mostly captive fleets affecting only 350 bar pressures. Only located on Road 10 network with an additional buffer distance of about 10 kilometers and within urban nodes. Then we have HRS for public transport as well. So HRS supplying liquid or gaseous hydrogen, always 700 bar or 300 and 700, same case as before. Then we have HRS supplying inland waterways and maritime vessels. So HRS supplying liquid or gaseous hydrogen at pressure of 350 bar and or 700 bar. This is inland or short shipping vessels propelled by hydrogen or hydrogen carrier fuels, such as ammonia, for example. It's demonstrated that only if it's demonstrated that the initial number of vessels is needed to kickstart the use of the support and refueling infrastructures. Now, we also have refueling facilities supplying port vehicles and equipment. We have infrastructure used for the performance of port services and operations, including port vehicles and equipment, always within the inland waterway and maritime port areas. As regard to port vehicles and equipment, there are different conditions applying, so only fitting or retrofitting of the main propulsion system. And this is important, eligible costs shall be limited to the difference in costs between a fossil fuel vehicle equipment and the zero emission vehicle equipment as regards to the propulsion system to be duly evidenced by the applicant. Refueling stations supplying railways as well are funded on sections always of the 20 rail network and on isolated networks as defined in the Article 3 of the regulations, and in terminals for refueling shunt locomotives. We have the LNG, so works mostly LNG refueling infrastructure supported in the form of fixed co-financing rates. So we have refueling stations supplying inland waterways and maritime vessels. So supplying infrastructure for 20 maritime and inland vessels on the 20 inland waterway and maritime ports. So it includes storage facility but only for the transport sector, and includes bunkering vessels as well. We have there are of course horizontal requirements for all alternative fuel infrastructures, such as the availability of the deployment of the transport-related zero emissions recharging and refueling infrastructures. So in this case, what is eligible is related energy storage facilities, deployment of electrolyzers based on renewable energy resources for electricity supply, and so on. The beneficiary shall operate and maintain the support and refueling point for a minimum period of 5 years, starting from the end date of the related grant agreement. There are a series of horizontal requirements for all public accessible recharging hydrogen refueling points, because they must be public accessible, no discriminatory basis, 24/7, no commercial agreements, no pre sign up, and so forth. Any user shall be able to recharge, refuel ad hoc based on the supporting recharging refueling points, and there will be devices and terminals for payment services through payment card readers and other functionalities. There will be other specific requirements for public accessible electric recharging points, but maybe we're more focused about LNG, and just a few points on what cannot be funded. So costs related to vehicles or vessels, except in the cases of inland waterways or short shipping, as mentioned, above, mostly hydrogen. Costs related to land acquisition, so renting, leasing of facilities, permits, and direct costs, staffing, administrative costs, those are not eligible. Operative costs are not eligible. Upgrade of existing recharging infrastructure is not eligible. Hydrogen production facilities based on steam method reforming are not eligible as well. And finally, hydrogen production facilities mainly used for other purposes than transport. So basically, the budget available for the call is 1,200,000,000 euros for this particular call. Of course, SAINIA will reserve the right to distribute all to one single priority as they see fit. Now, the most important thing about the funding of the alternative fuels facility is precisely the fact that the budget shall be implemented as follows. So 2/3 of the budget shall be implemented with implementing partners. Implementing partners such as, for example, the European Investment Bank, and in the case of Italy, we have CDP, Cassa Depositi Prestiti, which have signed an administrative agreement with the European Commission for the purpose of implementing this alternative fuels infrastructure facility. The remaining third of the budget shall be implemented with any other public or private financial institution established within the European Union, which is named non-implementing partner financial institutions. Now, a few details about the schedule. So the alternative fuels facility is divided in cutoffs. So we have 5 different cutoffs. The first one has already started. It was published in the last 16th September, and the deadline will be the 19th of January. Of course, there will be an intermediate deadline for the validation of the member state in case of Italy, which is, of course, the head of the 10th unit of the Italian Ministry of Sustainable Infrastructures and Mobility, which would be around mid-December, about one month. Evaluation March 22, May 22 for the information, and then the signature of the grant agreement, which is the document that finalizes the agreement. The reception of funds is in the end of 2022. We have a second cutoff date in June 2022, a third one in November 2022, a fourth one in April 2023, and a fifth one in September 2023. Of course, the SAINIA reserve the right to invest the funding as they see fit, also based on the different proposals. Now, let's take a look at the co-financing. So let's see. Yes, so we have unit contribution for electric vehicles for charging points of minimum of 100 kilowatts and minimum of 350 kilowatts. So it will work that there will be a unit contribution per charging station, which is 20,000 euro for 150 kilowatt and 40,000 for 350 kilowatts. Now, for the grid connection, there will be a single unit contribution of 20,000 euros. Now, with reference to the zero emissions vehicles and LNG and hydrogen works, the grant will only be based on actual cost grant, which means that it will reimburse only certain types of costs, which are defined eligible. For more, you can visit the SAINIA NEA website for more information, and have to be actually incurred. Budgeted costs are not sufficient. They have to be actual really costs. So the cost will be reimbursed at funding rate, so project funding rate, which are fixed in the grant agreement, and they follow as shown in this table over here. We will have for electricity and hydrogen 30% of the total cost of the action for infrastructures, and 30% of the total cost of the project for vessels, for vehicles, and equipment. In the case of LNG, we will have a 10% for infrastructures and no availability of funding for vessels, ports, and equipment. Okay, and this is more or less the
okay.
And then the general idea. Now, maybe if I can give you just a few details. The project, the eligible cost will only be eligible since January 2021. 36 months is the maximum duration of the project. We suggest SAINIA suggests a minimum budget of 1 million euro, which is important to follow. 10% only for management, and it will be possible to and a demand only for subjects that have legal personality, both private and public. And I think this is more or less everything. I hope I was quick enough and didn't take too much time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto. I will just follow up your presentation with very, very short slides regarding the Horizon calls and Horizon Europe with the possibilities that we have now also to include Southern Shore countries in some of these projects. And basically, I have drafted a few slides regarding the coming calls to be published early December with deadline in April. This was already shown by University of Genoa, by Abdel, and of course it is quite a comprehensive call, which could be quite interesting also for many of our projects. Yes, just like this, which is regarding basically fleets. So in somehow also referred to our pilot 2, and we have. Yes, and of course we have some others for renewable energies like wind energy and some computational tools for shipbuilding. So regarding this thematic, as you see, there is quite a large possibility of calls according also to the work plan of the Horizon Europe, just like I was reminding the CHEF Transport 2021, and particularly the Info Day, which is going to happen next week, to the links that we can show here. So to close this session, I would pass the floor shortly to Matteo Bocci, for before passing to the next session and discussion. So please, Matteo.
Thank you, Leo. Well, first of all, I look at the clock and I see that the agenda is ticking somehow. But so very briefly, thanks a lot to all participants. I mean, really, and the project stakeholder and Leo, of course, in premise. Because this is, looks all great and shining and well done, but we actually know how much effort is put beyond all this. So that's great. The second point is, it all looks very technical, but this is actually what is needed to be able to achieve the policy commitment. And the role that we have at West Med Assistance Mechanism is try to bridge these two. To close up, maybe these three concepts that we've been discussing so far are really intended as a puzzle. So obviously, as said, the first project described is essential in having a clear understanding of the level of innovation across the Med. The last one, if you wish, is looking at the supply side of energy, the demand side of energy. So the vessels, and obviously green shipping is essentially green vessels. But then I just wanted to stress the importance of a second component, which is, all that which has been said is exactly right. And green imports per se, it's an achievement. What we just want to stress here, that because ports are essential hub in supplying green energy throughout all the value chain, like inland, but also onshore. Greening the ports and making ports able to generate green energy really boost the whole green shipping process. So I think that is something that we should really stress in the pilot one as well. That's also why we want to have a discussion with maybe the Atlantic Network as well, and certainly the Med Ports Association is interested also in this process. So again, thanks a lot. I leave it back to you. I understand that maybe the dialogue and discussion will be more in the next session with also potentially the members of our technical group. So thanks a lot again. Thanks again to all our colleagues, and I leave the floor back to you, Leo.
Thank you, Matteo. And we can now start surely the next session regarding let's say, what we can foresee as an LNG scenario in the Mediterranean, whether we can foresee, let's say, a unique or somehow a common scenario, which is in any case, of course, a reality because of the shared basin, but at the same time we need to think about to a common also regulatory framework. So therefore, waiting for Diego Gavagnin, who is going to introduce this, I would like also to pass the floor to Ambassador Piazzi, who wanted to have some considerations on what we have spoken until now, what we have seen until now. Thanks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to make a few comments, and I thank all the panelists and those who intervened, because the subject is extremely interesting for the parliamentarians of our region. Just as a comment, in PAM we have a panel dedicated to economic issues, which is composed both by parliamentarians, representative of the private sector, and the financial institutions. And this panel is co-chaired by Italy, Honorable Centemero, by Morocco, Senator Lou Marbou, and as a very senior expert in the energy sector is coincidence, Engineer Alessandro Ortiz. Said so, when I look at what has been said today, I would like to highlight a couple of issues. First, as Parliamentary Assembly, we follow extremely closely the use and development for use of alternative green resources, such as biogases and green hydrogen. And we have a specific study on the issue of green hydrogen. Second, when I see at the West Med, and I was mentioning to a colleague from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it coincides with the 5+5 West Mediterranean Forum, of which PAM has the parliamentary dimension responsibility. So I think this is an area where we can really cooperate together and advance. We have also an academic platform, which is a network of university research centers, whereby we closely work with the intelligentsia, the academic world, to provide input and ideas for the report, resolution, and work of our commissions and our parliamentarians. And I really appreciated the input by Professor Gabriella De Maio. And I can already anticipate that we will be contacting her as, and this is in the framework for Italy, for instance, we have excellent cooperation with Siena, Pisa, Milano, Roma, Napoli, Catania, and in Napoli, we already have an ongoing cooperation with both political sciences and economy. And one professor from the Partenope University, Silvana Bartoletto, just produced a study for our assembly on the issue of energy security supply in the Eastern Mediterranean. And looking at the area of expertise of Professoressa Di Maio, and keeping in mind the project launched by PAM to establish an Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf community of green energy, I believe that their expertise will be fundamental, and subject to her agreement, we will try to cooperate with her. And indeed, as our facilitator has mentioned, the lack of uniformity of legal framework is one of the issues, is the block to a more smooth cooperation. Therefore, the function of PAM is standardization in terms of or adoption of those laws which are required. And this is from north and south. So you can count on to get together. Maybe we could even consider a joint.
Mi dicevano ieri un qualcosa sulla lingua italiana, ma non vedo nessun tasto.
Sorry, please shut the microphone. Who is not speaking, please, you should please shut the microphone. Thank you. Please.
Thank you. And so I was saying we can conceive the idea of organizing something together dedicated to the legal framework which are needed for us to support you from the technical point of view. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, because many, let's say, many points that we have been working on in this 1.5 year, I see could become a base of a common activity and synergic activities for the benefit of the basin. This is also the reason why I would like to ask Diego Gavagnin to give us, let's say, an overview and especially his opinion about this topic of the DAFI
Sì,
directive.
grazie.
Please.
Io parlerò in italiano in questa sessione. Come coordinatore scientifico il professor Garriba, ringrazio anche io, QuestMed e il Parlamento Euro-Mediterraneo per la loro partecipazione a questa sessione, che vi ricordo oggi si svolge in presenza e tra qualche giorno sarà pubblicata su internet e potrà essere diffusa, discussa e commentata. Quest'anno abbiamo fatto la scelta per questi eventi di ricominciare a ritrovarci in presenza, perché bisogna anche superare questa fase che abbiamo sofferto di chiusure con l'epidemia di coronavirus. E quindi ringrazio maggiormente tutti i partecipanti qui presenti per questa occasione. L'argomento dell'uso del metano liquido come combustibile per una prosecuzione dello sviluppo economico dell'area del Mediterraneo, ma che soddisfi anche le esigenze della decarbonizzazione, è ovviamente centrale. Non voglio aggiungere altro sulla rilevanza di questo argomento, ma dare qualche segnale invece di possibilità di interazioni e collaborazioni. Innanzitutto vorrei porre l'accento su un aspetto che ritengo fondamentale. Noi ci stiamo impegnando molto per la difesa delle coste e la difesa e lo sviluppo dei porti. Poi però rischiamo di dimenticarci del mare. La risorsa più preziosa è comunque l'acqua del Mediterraneo. È l'acqua che ci permette di viaggiare, di muoverci, di fare anche molto turismo sempre più green. E io però non vorrei che l'attenzione sui porti ci distraesse dalla qualità del mare. Anche perché noi sappiamo che nello scambio tra acqua e atmosfera possiamo avere più o meno effetti climalteranti. E da questo punto di vista, come sappiamo e sapete tutti, ma sia chiaro, non ne faccio una colpa agli armatori. È chiaro che nel momento in cui l'armatore ha la possibilità di adottare una certa tecnologia, lo deve fare perché deve mantenere la sua attività industriale. Dopodiché, però, l'usanza di condensare lo zolfo dagli scarichi dei camini per solidificarlo e buttarlo in mare non risolve il problema climatico, perché l'argomento è l'acidificazione del mare e io su questo ritengo sia opportuno riflettere parecchio, perché di navi di questo tipo, con questa tecnologia, se ne continuano a produrre in quantità. Dall'altro lato, invece, abbiamo lo sviluppo incredibile a livello mondiale delle navi AGNL, perché, per fare un esempio, lo scorso settembre abbiamo avuto il massimo numero di ordini di navi AGNL di massimo tonnellaggio, con 35 navi che rappresentano il 30% di tutti gli ordini di tutte le navi ordinate nel mese di settembre. Questo è estremamente interessante perché ci dice che il mercato sta andando in questa direzione. A questo punto si pone il problema delle infrastrutture. Ora non voglio farla troppo lunga, però in Europa è in vigore dal 2016 una direttiva apposita che dà le linee strategiche per l'uso dei combustibili alternativi e della loro infrastrutturazione. Si chiama AFID, Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive, e viene oggi aggiornata e ridiscussa nell'ambito del Parlamento europeo. Avremmo dovuto avere in questa sessione degli europarlamentari a parlare di questo, purtroppo per vari motivi non è stato più possibile. Però se faccio io una sintesi, si tratta in qualche modo di condividere e implementare tra i paesi europei la possibilità, uno, di fare rifornimento nei vari porti principali di combustibili alternativi, iniziando da quelli esistenti come il GNL, in futuro avere la disponibilità di altre fonti rinnovabili o altri vettori, come possono essere, io immagino si aggiungerà l'ammoniaca, si aggiungerà per un periodo di più lungo respiro anche l'idrogeno, che però sappiamo pone molti problemi tecnologici ancora, però il futuro è sicuramente in quella direzione. A questo proposito vi segnalo che qualche giorno fa è stata usata una nave con un 50% di metano liquido fossile e 50% di metano liquido sintetico, prodotto con l'idrogeno miscelato con la CO2 tolta dall'ambiente, idrogeno realizzato con l'elettricità idroelettrica, quindi verde, e l'elettrolisi dell'acqua, e con questa nave si è fatto un primo esperimento. Con onestà intellettuale, gli armatori che hanno fatto questa sperimentazione hanno anche dichiarato che il costo è 6 volte superiore a quello del GNL fossile. Poi abbiamo l'altro tema grande, in grande sviluppo in Europa, e io veramente spero che possa seguire un analogo sviluppo anche in tutte le aree della costa sud del Mediterraneo, che ha terreno a disposizione, anche se ha poca acqua, che è il biometano col quale si può produrre il bioGNL. A questo punto la nuova direttiva, secondo anche Leonardo Manzari e anche i vertici di WestMed con cui abbiamo parlato nei mesi scorsi, si potrebbe magari attraverso anche il Parlamento euro-mediterraneo, valutare una qualche forma di coinvolgimento dei paesi della sponda sud per avere una regolamentazione simile in tutto il Mediterraneo con col lavoro che sta facendo la Commissione europea oggi nel confronto col Parlamento europeo. Davvero sarebbe una grande iniziativa. Non ci dimentichiamo che grazie alla sponda sud l'area mediterranea continua a crescere demograficamente e continua a crescere anche economicamente. Significa maggior numero di navi, maggior uso dei porti e maggiore sviluppo e qualità della vita per tutti.
Grazie.
Grazie Leonardo, ti rilascio la parola.
Thank you, Diego, and thank you also for hosting us here within the Conferenza GNL venue, which is today at the 6th edition, if I will remember, and so means that it is a consolidated event on the sector. Following up what Diego was saying, I would like to pass the floor to some of our stakeholders who are present together today with us, and I see Atenfeki from OMMP from Tunisia, and I would like to give him the floor, and after him I will of course let all the others follow. Please, Atenfeki, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So Atenfeki is from the Ministry of Transport and Logistics and not from the OMP. Sabah al-khair, assalamu alaikum, buongiorno, bonjour, buenos dias, bom dia. I hope I forget no one. So thank you to give us the opportunity to express the interest to this innovative technology that is GNL. Tunisia, as you know, is state party to MARPOL since especially the protocol of 97 to amend the convention as modified by the protocol of 78 relating thereto, by which Annex 6 entitled Regulation for Prevention of Air Pollution from Ships was added, which lead us to look for green energy such as GNL. In few words, Tunisia is interested to this project since it has merchant ships calling European ports and is still obliged, let's say, between brackets, to comply with the standards, since we are a state party to MARPOL, of course. Tunisia started procedures in an alternative transitional energy in seaports of trade that is called ironing, but has not yet experienced in GNL. However, is still interested in developing this energy and in its seaports of trade and ships. That's why we asked for technical assistance to EMSA to carry out a feasibility study for this project. But this action took a little bit delay due to COVID pandemic, of course. So for further details about the green energy in Tunisian shipping and in Tunisian ports, I think that my colleagues can provide you with the necessary details, if necessary, of course, especially about the adaptation of the renewal of fleet and the adaptation of our seaports. And at the end, let's say the last but not the least, Tunisia remain interested by this evolution of the project, and still require technical assistance in this field. Thank you to give us the opportunity to participate to this event. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. At the end, the goal of undertaking common partnership and project proposals is exactly the goal for providing technical assistance and capacity building through these common goals. And this is what the experiences that in some cases have already been done in the north and on the shore may become, of course, useful also for an advanced business model and advanced experience on this. I know we have Port of Barcelona connected, and in particular we have Stefania Sanles, and I would like to give her the floor about this because we are very much glad about the participation of Port of Barcelona. Please, Stefania, if you are connected, floor is yours. Hello? No, I see that she's not with us at this moment, so I pass the floor to Ms. Safai Liazidi from Direction of Ports of the Ministry of Transport of Morocco. Safai, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Leonardo. So first of all, I thank you for inviting Morocco to join in this event, this special event with Mediterranean countries. I would like to share with you our impression regarding works done in the framework of green shipping. I would like to share with you our impression regarding work done in the framework of Green Shipping Group. I believe that it's a very good network to establish cooperation and regional observatory with Mediterranean countries regarding energy for maritime sector. Also, it's a good way to share experiences and best practices and projects. We confirm also the need for the feasibility study for small-scale energy bunkering. So we are under the group to shape this project and especially the feasibility study for LNG small-scale bunkering. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Safai. I see also the presence of Mohamed Ali Goddi from Compagnie Tunisienne de Navigation, and I would like to ask him to take the floor about as he was connecting about this. Please, Mr. Ali Goddi, the floor is yours. I cannot hear from him. Mr. Ali Goddi, you should activate the microphone, please. Hello? Okay. Okay. In this case, I would like, of course, to let's say to focus on the fact that Tunisia showed interest in this kind of hypothesis, which was mentioned by Diego Gavagnin, and could be a way to let's say to start working eventually also in this direction. Would be also useful to understand if this is let's say a perspective also for Morocco. in this direction. So I believe from this point of view, we let's say if we do not have further intervention, because I see that Mr. Aligodi is with us, and also Estefania Sanles is with us. So please, if you are able to activate the microphone, I kindly ask you to enter and have your intervention. No. Okay, I don't see further interaction, so I believe it could be worth to go towards the conclusions that I would like to leave to Daniele Bosio as a president, co-president of West Med Initiative. Please, Daniele, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonardo. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting session. We heard the projects that are ongoing and the positions of our partners and the main actors of these exercise, of this initiative on green shipping. It is very important. I took note of some of the keywords of these efforts. With these,
Daniele, sorry, I see that there is Belagine Boumediene from Algeria.
Very welcome.
That we were, let's say, strongly fighting to have with us. So please, Professor Belagine Boumediene, if you take the floor, it's our pleasure. Sorry, Daniele. Sorry? He should be connected because I got message. He is connected. Belagine Boumediene. Mr. Belagine, if you are in, you can activate the microphone and start speaking, please. Okay, so no way. I apologize for technical difficulties we had today, given by some constraints which we found today. But I pass the floor directly to Daniele Bosio, and I apologize for interrupting you, Daniele. Sorry.
I'm sorry for our Algerian friend. We should wish to listen to him. But anyway, this means that we really need to come back to meet in person and share face to face all these considerations. Yes, I was saying that we are dealing with a number of issues which are very important, all interconnected. First of all, there is a great need of investment that should be coordinated and supported by the institution, by the European institution, and we saw some of the possibilities. Another very important issue is the regulatory framework. Mr. Guadagnin already, Diego said that we are moving towards the new directive on alternative fuel, and that will be important to set the framework, the regulatory framework in the European Union. But the European Union is not an actor in itself. It does not live alone, especially in the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean, we share very closely a very dense, a very frequented environment, which is the sea. And if we don't share the same standards, we risk to have not to have the result that and the outcome that we expect. So from regulations, we step to harmonization. This is another very important aspect. Overall, we have to be aware that all this process is led by the objective to arrive to a system, to an economic system, an economic ecosystem of zero emission and zero greenhouse emissions. This is not something that will be achieved in a few years. We will need transitions, and these transitions should be especially in the shipping sector, which is so much interconnected, needs to have clear and feasible technologies and a roadmap that leads to results that everyone can share in an environment that will be economically sustainable and, of course, environmentally sustainable. That's all. Thank you.
Well, I believe that we can close the session now. I don't know whether Diego has some more to add for conclusion, but I would like to thank you all and leave the last salutation to the Conferenza GNL who hosted us. We are very glad for that. Thank you. Diego.
Sì, io vi ringrazio ancora per essere di questi argomenti. Le difficoltà di collegamento confermano la necessità di investimenti che non siano limitati a solo una zona del Mediterraneo, ma che deve essere ormai, cioè, il G5 del Mediterraneo ci vorrà, insomma, in qualche modo. Io volevo riprendere solo e concludo la parola investimenti che ha usato adesso l'ambasciatore Bosio. E la aggiungo alla parola responsabilità. Noi europei abbiamo delle responsabilità morali, secondo me, anche verso le emissioni, non solo quelle nostre, ma anche quelle dei paesi dai quali importiamo combustibili fossili. Questo significa che per arrivare alla stessa ecoeconomia di cui parlava Bosio e prima anche Piazzi del Parlamento Euro-Mediterraneo, bisogna avere un livello di investimenti tale da raggiungere una parità tecnologica. La parità tecnologica non può che essere preceduta da una parità di regole. Sarebbe assurdo avere una sponda, diciamo, nord con una regolamentazione, livelli di inquinamento e di emissioni diverse da sud. Il sud potrebbe lucrare forse con un maggior bunkeraggio di combustibili, meno di qualità inferiore nell'area sud, ma sarebbe un'opportunità destinata a durare molto poco tempo. Quindi grazie ancora a tutti voi, è importante le discussioni che abbiamo fatto stamattina, che concludono la conferenza, sesta conferenza internazionale sul GNL Small Scale. Adesso sappiamo che è collegato l'ingegner Guido Di Napoli del Ministero dello Sviluppo Economico e della Transizione Ecologica, che so essere collegato, e se non abbiamo problemi di collegamento io direi di dargli la parola.
Buongiorno, mi sentite?
Sì, chiaro e forte. Grazie di essere riuscito a essere con noi.
Grazie a voi dell'invito, grazie Diego. Ho seguito, diciamo, soltanto, sono riuscito a collegarmi soltanto oggi e nella parte finale della conferenza, che è molto interessante, e ho seguito anche gli anni passati. Quest'anno però purtroppo, o per fortuna, sono in questo momento impegnato con uno step, diciamo, particolarmente importante, che è collegato, Diego, anche a quello che hai detto tu nel primo intervento che ho sentito da parte tua, interessanti come anche tutti gli altri che ho sentito oggi, perché ci stiamo apprestando a dare attuazione alla misura prevista nel Recovery Fund, nel PNRR, riguardo all'incentivazione del biometano, che, come giustamente hai ricordato, Diego, può essere diciamo trasformato in bioGNL e diciamo secondo noi del Ministero della Transizione Ecologica, questa è una opportunità che può essere colta e verrà sicuramente colta, perché è particolarmente importante, perché realizza proprio uno di quei, diciamo, step, di quei pezzetti della decarbonizzazione che può veramente incidere per quanto riguarda il nostro paese. È un progetto a cui il governo intero crede molto e stiamo appunto lavorando per metterlo sul piatto nella maniera diciamo anche più semplice possibile, più agevole da parte degli imprenditori che vorranno appunto sfruttare questa opportunità. Dopodiché le altre cose ce le siamo già dette, le ho sentite qui e sono quelle che sappiamo. Il GNL sarà il combustibile di transizione sicuramente per quanto riguarda i trasporti marittimi, ma secondo me anche per quanto riguarda i trasporti terrestri pesanti. E di questo ne siamo consci noi al Ministero della Transizione Ecologica, ma anche al Ministero ex infrastrutture, insomma la pubblica amministrazione in questo ci crede. Vi ringrazio dell'invito, grazie Diego, se ci sono domande, altrimenti vi saluto e torno al mio lavoro.
Domande ce ne sarebbero troppe, guarda, credo che sarà opportuno un confronto più ampio nei prossimi giorni. Noi stiamo esaurendo adesso il nostro tempo e dobbiamo ancora lanciare in questo momento il video messaggio del presidente dell'Euro Mediterranean Parliament, la PAM, l'onorevole Gennaro Migliore, che è un orgoglio per noi avere un italiano alla presidenza di questo importante organismo. E quindi se la regia può lanciare questo video messaggio, io li...
Dear colleagues and friends, first of all, let me thank the organizers for this important to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, for which I have the honor to be its current president. PAM is the international organization representing the national parliaments of 34 countries from the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf region. PAM has a prominent interest in the subject discussed over the last 3 days. Since its establishment, PAM has devoted a number of events on energy-related issues, including strategic interactions among our members and formulation of policy papers. For instance, PEM was one of the first organizations to promote in 2015 a carbon added tax on products. You are all familiar with the Agenda 2030 established by the General Assembly of the United Nations. In particular, the UN has clearly identified in the Sustainable Development Goal number 7 the need to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. And one of the targets set for Goal 7 is to promote investment in energy infrastructure and clean energy technologies, which I believe should be an inspiring factor for what you discussed today. To complement the UN efforts towards the attainment of the SDG 7, the EU, as a part of the European Green Deal, is working on the revision of its climate, energy, and transport-related legislation under the so-called Fit for 55 package, in order to align current laws with the 2030 and 2050 ambition. Against this background, gas production plays a key role in the decarbonization process. According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, over the next years, it is expected that the production of gas will grow at the rate double than the one of oil, and along with the renewable energies, is destined to become one of the primary sources of electrical power. IEA foresees that 50% of gas production will take the form of liquefied gas, which has several advantages. It reduces dependencies of the same suppliers, it avoids investing in massive infrastructure. Nevertheless, this will require at the same time investment in the transport sector, which needs to meet the particular condition required by the liquefied gas. By doing so, this will also facilitate the access of liquefied gas in areas where there are no gas pipelines. In this respect, I can assure you that one of the priorities of the PEM is to advise its member parliaments to adopt legislation which could facilitate the liquefied gas flows between the two shores of the Mediterranean and strengthen further than the Gulf. We are also launching very soon a Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf Community of Renewable Energy, MGEC, with the aim of establishing a structured framework of cooperation with all stakeholders, including the international financial institution and the private sector, of course. MGEC will provide a space dedicated to helping energy actors and institutions to create when they implement new initiatives. This will be achieved by advocating for a policy landscape and provide legislative opportunities for energy actors to connect, learn, share business model, and help each other to overcome the obstacles. I thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you. I would like just to apologize for the communication problems we have had, the connection problems we have had, and I give you all appointment to the next WestMed Stakeholders Conference in Rome on November 9th. Thank you very much and see you soon.